Have you ever wondered if there's a predictable pattern to oppression? Well, today we're diving into something pretty amazing. We're going to uncover a complete blueprint for how systems of destruction work, and it's all hidden inside just 5 ancient verses. We're going to break this down piece by piece, from its structure all the way to its deepest, darkest motive.
So that's the big question on the table, right? Can a text from 1400 years ago really give us a precise, almost clinical model for understanding a pattern that we see repeated all through history, and maybe even inside ourselves? And the answer from this text is a resounding yes. See, what's so incredible is that these verses aren't just telling a story. They're actually laying out a clear 5-stage structure. Think of it like a formula. You have the state, then its nature, the position of who's in charge, their act, and finally, the motive behind it all. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll get a bird's-eye view of this whole anatomy. Then, we're going to zoom in on the system itself and why it's described as a self-feeding fire. After that, we'll look at the operators, the people in charge, and their very conscious actions. We'll uncover the motive, and then we'll bring it all into the present day to see how this pattern is still playing out. Okay, let's dive in. We're going to start with the foundational framework. This is the schematic, the blueprint we're going to use to understand everything else that follows. So here it is, the 5-stage pattern. It's so elegant. First, the text points to a destructive system, a state, and says, stop this. Second, it tells you exactly what that system's nature is. Third, it shows you who's pulling the levers. Fourth, it details their deliberate act of harm. And fifth, it peels back all the layers to reveal the one single reason driving the whole thing. All right, let's start building this out, looking at those first 2 stages. We're going to identify the destructive system and then really dig into what makes it tick. So the text kicks off with this verse. It points to a group, the companions of the Uqtud, and essentially calls for them to be stopped, to be restricted. But what in the world is an Uqtud? And this is where the language gets so rich. Al-Uqtud is way more than just a physical ditch in the ground. It's a powerful metaphor for any deeply entrenched system. Think of it like a groove that's been dug so deep, it's hard to get out of. A destructive trench state, whether that's in a society or even in our own minds. Okay, so we have this trench state, but what's its nature? What's it like? The very next verse tells us. It is the fire, possessing its own fuel. Now this is a really crucial detail. This system isn't passive. It's not just some static structure. It's an active, all-consuming fire. And here's the kicker. It doesn't need anyone to keep throwing logs on it. It possesses its own fuel. It sustains itself. So what is this mysterious fuel? It's not wood or gas, that's for sure. The text uses a word al-waqud that points to something abstract. And get this, it's pride, anger, jealousy, fear, the lust for domination. These are the powerful emotions and psychological states that keep that destructive fire burning, both inside a person and across an entire society. So now we shift gears. We've seen the system, the self-feeding fire, but who's running the show? Let's look at who's in control and exactly what they're doing. This is where we get into the next 2 stages, position and act.
The text describes the position of these operators with this phrase, which you can translate as while they are over it, seated.
But the word for seated here, od, is so much more powerful than just sitting on a chair. It implies a rooted seat of power, a position of fixed, established authority. They are not victims caught in the fire. No, they are sitting above it, over it, in a control seat, deliberately maintaining and directing it. So from that seat of control, what are they doing? This next verse tells us their act. And they are over what they do to the believers, witnesses. See, the text makes it crystal clear this is no accident. By calling them shahud, or witnesses to their own actions, it's saying they are fully conscious, fully aware, and totally responsible. And their target is specific. The language suggests they're attacking the believer's very base, their foundation, the structural house upon which their entire belief system stands. Okay, so we have this system, the operators, and their conscious act of destruction. But this leaves us with the biggest question of all, right? Why? Let's dig into the final piece of the puzzle, the motive. And the final verse in this pattern just lays it all out with stunning clarity. It says, "They found no fault with them except that they believed in Allah, the exalted in might, the praiseworthy." I mean, just think about that. The text strips away every other possible excuse. It wasn't about a crime they committed. It wasn't about some political disagreement. The resentment, the fault-finding, was aimed at one thing and one thing only: their belief. Their foundation in something higher than the trench state is the one thing the system just cannot stand.
So now we have the complete five-stage anatomy, but this isn't just some relic of ancient history. What's incredible is how this pattern works on two levels at the same time, in the big, external world of politics and history, and in the quiet, internal world of our own psychology.
It's like the same blueprint works at different scales. Internally, that trench state can be a destructive ego pattern, fueled by our own pride and fear, where our false self takes the control seat and attacks our own foundation of trust. And then externally, it's an oppressive group or state, fueled by ideology, consciously targeting a community's very foundation. It's the exact same pattern.
And here it is, all together one last time. From restriction all the way to motive, you can see this clear, logical, and terrifyingly coherent progression. It's just such a powerful model for spotting and understanding how these destructive systems really work from start to finish.
So, we'll leave you with this question. Now that you have this blueprint, this anatomy of oppression, where do you see it? Where do you recognize its stages? Do you see a trench state fueled by pride and fear, with operators consciously attacking a foundation of belief? Is it out there in the world? Or maybe, just maybe, is it somewhere closer to home, inside yourself?